guys, I'm Natalie. I'm a junior here at Elkhorn South, I guess here as well. If you don't know me, this is my first time actually giving one of these talks, so if I'm a little rambly or a little nervous, just bear with me. I'm used to introducing the speakers and actually speaking. So we are in our Simplifying Jesus, Simplifying God series, and last week we heard from Liv, and she did such a great job. I actually did all of her little methods before this today, so that was really good. If you don't know me, you're probably looking at me and you're just like, she looks like a person who does not like action movies, Marvel movies, looks like a big rom-com fan, The Notebook, all of that whole situation, but you're actually wrong. Guys, I am the biggest Marvel fan out there to ever exist. There's actually a picture of me. Yeah. There's actually a picture of me. Biggest Marvel fan since like 4, okay? So all of your assumptions about me were wrong. JK, they're not. I probably seen a total of like 3 Marvel movies and don't know what's going on. But I have a friend who is obsessed with Marvel. Like, biggest super fan ever. And last year, we were in Spanish class together, and we kind of bonded over having a horrible Spanish teacher. And I was like, this girl seems super cool, super funny, super nice. I want to be friends with her, but I have nothing in common with her. But I did know she loved Marvel. So I was like, okay, I can fake my way through a couple conversations, and then we can move past this whole Marvel thing. Well, a year later, we're besties, and I'm still getting sent like 10 plus TikToks a day of Marvel TikToks, Marvel fan accounts. And apparently we're going to see the new Guardians of the Galaxy on Friday. I haven't seen the first one. So if anyone knows what goes on, please tell me, because I can't really fake my way through that. But anyways, so I knew she liked Marvel, so I was like, okay, I want to be friends with her. I'm going to pursue her interest in Marvel and kind of fake my way through that. Well, that did backfire in the fact that I've just been kind of lying to her for a little bit. It did work out really well because now I have an amazing friend. So this whole concept of pursuing an interest because you want to have a relationship with someone can be applied to almost every relationship, friendship, anything. Like, you like that guy who loves cars, you're going to study some cars so you can pull out that information when you're talking to him. Or that girl you have a crush on who loves Taylor Swift, you're going to listen to all of her songs and then just be like, I listened to this really cool song. She's like, you won't know her. Play Taylor Swift, and then boom, she's in love with you. We pursue other people's interests so we can be friends with them or get a relationship with them. So basically the question is, what is different about these relationships than the relationships we have with God? How is that different to pursue a relationship with them than we want to pursue a relationship with God? So, as we know, God tells us in Matthew 22:37, love the Lord your God with all of your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. So how do we love God? That's just very confusing topic. How do we actually love him? Where do we even start? And it's not really that simple because we have a lot of random things kind of in the way. First of all, we can't see him, we can't hear him. Others really haven't simplified things for us. There's no Jesus hotline where we can pick up and be like, hey, I'm actually really confused about this right now. I need a little bit of help with this. What's going on? What are we doing? There's none of that. So what do we do instead? We go to other people and we ask them these questions and they give us these long, lengthy answers and we're like, okay, I did not ask for that. I just want a simple yes or no, step-by-step instruction. How is this going to work? But actually, God did give us a simple step-by-step instruction. So we're going to kind of answer the question throughout today, just if we want to pursue a relationship with Jesus, with God, how we have to first pursue Jesus' interests that he had on earth. So we're going to do a little throwback to the Old Testament. Good Old Testament. I love it. And then, so God is basically trying to show himself to all of his people, to all the people. And he does this by using prophets to communicate his message He used priests in a time of worship and teaching. He even used kings to govern God's people the way they wanted to be governed. So he's like, I want my people to have this, so I'm going to tell the kings to do this. But like you, like me, like everyone else, like the kings and the priests and the prophets, they all pursued their own interests, whether that is because they're scared, they have a lot of confusion surrounding what God actually wants them to do, and just also because we're human beings and we're selfish. Like, that's our first nature. So a lot of God's interest for us gets pushed out of the way for our own. So what I like to picture this is, you know, when you go to the airport and you're walking out, leaving the terminal, and you see the people standing there with the signs that say, like, car ride for, like, live, car ride for grace, whatever. And you're like, oh, that's me. They're going to take me on a path to the hotel that I'm going to. Like, I know where I'm going. They're going to lead me. They're going to drive me to that path. So basically, God was doing that, but from heaven, obvi. And he had a little sign that said, like, okay, guys, you want to get to me. This is what you got to do. This is what you got to preach to other people. But the thing is, they were kind of just like, no, I don't see that sign. The font is a little too small for me to read. I'm going to ignore that. I don't like that. That doesn't benefit me in any way. And it's also a little confusing. And so God's like, okay, obviously this is not working out. They're not listening to my instruction. What are we going to do for this? So he's like, I'm going to boost up the budget, and I'm going to make a giant neon sign, and I'm going to send it down on earth. And this neon sign is Jesus. Now, he sends Jesus to communicate his message and to help guide people to God. Now, we love Jesus. He's a slay. He's such a great guy. But he gets a little confusing sometimes. So people will ask him a lot of questions, and sometimes his answers aren't the easiest to know, easiest to realize. He'll just answer in stories sometimes, or just say things that just make complete, utter nonsense. And they're just like, that did not help. Well, one of these times, Jesus is with his friends, his 12 disciples, at Passover. And at Passover, he is washing their feet. Now, do you guys remember a couple weeks ago, we played a game where you guys took off your socks and you drank a drink through the sock? And how, like, everyone was gagging, how we're all like, that was disgusting. Now, okay, imagine playing that game, but you're, first of all, not showering. You haven't showered ever. You're walking miles that day, and it's dusty out, and you're wearing sandals, and then doing that. Like, that's a little icky. That's a little gross. But that's exactly the situation the disciples and Jesus was in. But yet, he took a very humble position, a job that not even the lowest of servants will get. And he bent down and washed his disciples' feet. He washed them, and he didn't complain about it. Leaders do not do that, but Jesus did. Now, his bestie Peter, my bad, looked at him and said, yo, I wouldn't do that. Why are you stooping that low? Like, good for you to take that position and be so humble. But I wouldn't do that. That's just too gross, too below me. And Jesus kind of looked at him, and he was like, actually, like, if you want to follow me, like, follow my lead, and you will lower yourself and humble yourself to others. And it kind of got a little more in depth with that, and that's a different story for a different day. But further on in dinner, he is talking to Thomas and the rest of his disciples, and Thomas asked Jesus, where are you going? I know you're going to God, but where are you going? How are you getting there? Can we come with? I'm very confused on the path you're taking. How do we get there? And in true Jesus fashion, he responds by basically saying, no one comes through the Father except through me. Now, I can imagine just Thomas is like, what does that mean? Does that mean, like, we're going to just, like, walk with you to the God? Do you have, like, a secret code that no one else knows about? Like, how does this work? So they're asking all of these questions. And then everyone's kind of getting a little tired of this. And then Philip said in John 14:8, Lord, show us the Father, and that will be enough for us. So basically, Philip is saying, how can we know the way if we don't know where you're going? How can we know how to get there if you're not telling us how to get there? How do we get there? Like, I'm just so confused. Like, just give us a guide, give us a path, and we will follow there. We'll go to God. We'll believe in you. Just like we need a little map. We need something to help us out. And I can imagine Jesus is just standing there shaking his head like, oh my goodness, were you not listening to me 5 seconds ago when I told Thomas how to get to God? Were you not watching me these past couple of years and seeing what I've been doing to other people? Like, he has been there. He's saying, have you not been paying attention? I have been showing you God because God is me. Like, what God wants to do, he's been doing through me. So Jesus basically answered 1,000 years worth of questions and 1,000 years more to come through a simple phrase in John 14:9 saying, don't you know me, Philip? Even after I've been among you for such a long time, anyone who has seen me has seen the Father. He's saying, I've given you the path. You just need to pay attention. I've been showing you how to get to the Father this whole entire time you've been following me. You just need to go straight ahead and just follow, go, move. And what I like to think of this, have you ever taken a really hard test? And you're halfway through the test and you're like, this is impossible. I don't know any of the answers. I don't know what's going on. Just none of this is making sense. So you go up to the teacher and you like throw down your test and you're like, guys, this is so hard. Why would you give this to me? I don't know what I'm doing. And your teacher's like, it's an open note test. Like, did you not know that? Were you not listening? They're like, no, you never said that. Like, you never told me it was an open note test, else I wouldn't be coming here struggling. And the teacher's like, no, I told you at the beginning that was an open note. That's kind of what Jesus is like to his disciples. The disciples are coming to Jesus and they're like, I am struggling so much. I don't know, like, this is so confusing. How do I get to God? Nothing is clear. Nothing is easy. And Jesus is like, I've shown you the path. Like, I've given you a cheat sheet to God. You just haven't been paying attention and you haven't been listening. So, knowing that Jesus gave us a cheat sheet and a little path to follow, what is on this? Like, what can we learn from Jesus on the path that he made for us? What are his interests that we can pursue? So first and foremost, Jesus is for the people. He stood up to abusers. We can see this throughout the whole entire book of the Bible. He stood up to priests, to kings, to prophets who all misuse the power that God has given him. We can see this especially when priests would use the temple on a Sunday for a marketplace, and Jesus did not like that, and he shut that down real quick. But we can see, like, in examples like that, how he used his power to stop abusers of God. And then we also see him preach a kingdom unlike anything people have seen before. This kingdom is filled with love, grace, freedom, hope, peace, all of this stuff that people just haven't experienced in this world. And he preached of the kingdom of heaven to everybody and anyone. He would stop people on the streets and preach of the kingdom of heaven. He would stand on podiums, on benches, and just preach in front of thousands about the kingdom of heaven. And his disciples saw him do that. Third, he got close to the sick, the crippled, and the outcasts. Now, let me tell you a little something. If you were sick back then, people did not go near you. They thought you were possessed, to say it. Like, you sneeze, and they're like, oh, that person is possessed. I don't want to get close to them because I don't want to get that demon in me. Like, no, thank you. You were crippled, so you broke a leg. I don't know. They were looked at you, and they were just like, that's because your parents sinned. So there's nothing to fix you. We're not going to fix you. We're not going to get near to you. We're not going to help you because you must have sin in your life. And obviously that is, first of all, not true. And Jesus realized this. He obviously knew that. So what he did, he embraced them. He restored dignity in their lives. He included them in things where the priests and prophets and these people who said they're followers of God would exclude them from. He showed them respect and gave them a life of dignity and value that they've never had before. And all of his disciples saw him do this. And then also, he treated women and children with respect. If you know anything, taken any history class, you know that women and children were never given respect. They were on the lowest of the totem pole, okay? But Jesus gave them the respect they deserved and listened to them. He had friends like Mary Magdalene and the woman at the well. He would talk to and value their opinions and use them to give testimonies, which is such a crazy thing because people just didn't rely on them back then. And this is something that their disciples also witnessed. They also saw Jesus embrace sinners. They saw him embrace the thieves, the liars, the tax collectors. They saw him go to people's house who knowingly sinned and eat dinner with them. That is something so unheard of, and yet Jesus did it, and the way he did it was just amazing, and he was full of forgiveness and grace. And lastly, most importantly, they all saw him forgive. They saw him forgive every single person, no matter what they did, no matter how much they sinned, how little they sinned. They saw him forgive. So Jesus didn't just show love to all of the people that checked the boxes. He didn't show love to the people who followed every single law. He didn't show love to all the people who were like, you know what, I'm the best. I give the most money to the church. I pray all the time. I follow all the rules. I'm literally the best Christian out there. Jesus was like, okay, that's cool. Good for you. But also the Gentile who doesn't believe in me, the person who has not a penny to their name, I can also show love to. And they're also very important. So, to answer the question on how do we follow Jesus, how do we follow God, how do we love God, we have to pursue Jesus' interest. Now, what is his interest? Jesus' interest is the interest of people. Jesus was love, is love, and will always be love. Jesus showed us who the Father was by setting a path of love. So his command for us to love others, his path that he laid out for us that says, have the interest of other people, care for other people, love other people, is not that hard to do. It is not that burdensome. It is not difficult. And in fact, in 1 John 5:3, he says, in fact, this is love for God, to keep his commands. And his commands are not burdensome. And it's really not that hard to love, guys. Like, you see a person carrying a bunch of stuff, you're going to hold the door open for them. Like, that is loving other people. You see a person who's sitting all by themselves at lunch, invite them to your table. Invite them. Like, that's what Jesus did with the outcasts. Invite the other people to your table and join them. Say thank you to your teacher after they had a really long day at school and you had a really rowdy class. Do your laundry, do your dishes. Do just small acts of kindness each day. Like, love people. That's the number one rule. Like, that's the universal rule. And it's not that hard to do, and that is what God wants us to do. That is what Jesus laid out for us to do. So, is loving God, how do we do that? Well, loving God equals living like Jesus. And what did Jesus do? Jesus loved. And I'm not saying we're going to follow Jesus exactly by putting mud on people's eyes and like, oh my goodness, you can see now. Or condemning people left and right, just like, oh no, that was wrong, don't do that. No, we're not going to do that. It's very simple, though, how we are going to love people and show interest in other people. So here's my challenge for you guys this week. Find an opportunity each day to go out of your way and give time, whether that be doing your laundry, doing the dishes, holding the door open, taking extra time to make sure the house is clean, cleaning up after yourself at lunch, giving the janitors a little help out, or giving your money, giving to your church, giving to charity, to homeless shelters, to the Girl Scouts, like give money, or even just a little bit of your attention. And that could be inviting a person to come join you in your lab group, or even asking someone how their day's been and just listening to them. And be in depth, be intentional about what you're doing. And finally, hold your people in your small group accountable for this. Because it's, like I said, it is not that hard to love other people. It's really quite simple. If you want to grow in your relationship with God, start showing interest in what Jesus was interested in, and that is the care and love of other people. And so, yeah, that is kind of the message today. So have fun in small groups, and remember to love other people, and yes, that's it.